having me. All right, so are we ready?
Yeah, I think we're ready. If people join, I'll try and admit them, but I think we can start now.
All right,
Uh,
sounds good.
so, hey everyone who's watching, this is um, a mentor session by Wilcox DYC Club about college planning and beyond with our mentor, Dan Dillard. Thank you so much for being here. We're really glad to have you and to talk to you and kind of let you share with us your knowledge on everything. Thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure. Happy to be.
Yeah, so today we're just going to give a bit of an introduction on who Mr. Dillard is. We're going to be interviewing him, and we're going to be talking about topics like education, your career, and even entrepreneurship. So, real quick, a quick introduction on DYC Club. So, the DYC Club is an extension of a 501c3 nonprofit organization called Design Your Careers. And basically, our aim is to showcase student talent through funding student interests. So we mainly do this in two different ways. So one way is student-led workshops where students can teach about any topic or skill they have. And the other way is through mentor sessions like this one. So I'll give a quick introduction about Mr. Dillard, and then he can kind of follow up and talk more about himself. So he's the founder of Founding Austin, which is a resource for parents and young entrepreneurs. And he has 20 years of financial experience helping students pay for college. And he also is great at assisting students who are uncertain about their future career choices. So, Mr. Dillard, if you'd like to talk about yourself, we.
Yeah, sure. So, so it's a little bit broader than this. So, I run a financial planning company called Nest. I'm one of the partners there, and we've helped both students and their parents figure out multiple types of expenses from college to retirement, all kinds of things. So anything financially related is what we've been helping. And so that's kind of my background over the years. In It's now 20 plus. It's probably 24 years now. Started in 2000. So one thing that I noticed was also this disconnect between parents' expertise and what their kids want to do for their careers and what they want to do for their lives. So parents are usually an expert at one or two things. So mom and dad might be a lawyer or a teacher. No, they might have three or four kids, and every one of the kids normally don't want to do what mom or dad did. Yeah. So what that creates is it leaves this gap, this knowledge gap of how do you mentor, how do you help your kids choose a path that's right for them. And so I noticed that as we were helping, hundreds and hundreds of families get their kids through university. And so that led me to the other thing I noticed, because it was financial related, I noticed the cost of education has been growing by 8% per year, inflation wise, since I've been in business for 20 years. So why that's important is normal inflation all this time was about 3%. So if you got one area of finance that grows much faster, it just means that it's out of balance, right? And so what that ends up happening is that it becomes more pressure for families to, and it's a higher stakes game to just put your kids in college without them really knowing what they want to do. Because it's no longer I can find myself in college. It's like I need a. Both the students feel it and their parents feel it too. So this led me to build Founding Austin, and Founding Austin is this resource that where I went all over town and interviewed entrepreneurs all over town, and I just really wanted to know what what does that path look like? How did you become an entrepreneur, creator? What does that path look like? And really, the reason for building that company, that magazine, was to give parents and students more options as to kind of see a bigger scope. I just want to be a teacher. Well, can you be a teacher in some other things as well? What other things? And so everybody's got different paths, and that magazine, Founding Austin, really allowed me to explore what our neighbors in Austin are doing, and share that with the public. And so it's just kind of this tool that allowed both parents and their kids to kind of figure out what those paths look like and give them more visibility.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna dive into the Q&A. Anirudh, would you like to start with the first question?
So one question that we had was that, like, within the landscape of education and employment, like, it's constantly changing, right? What steps can, like, I take to solidify a career path that aligns with my passions and also helps me, like, make money and aligns with the future job market?
So this is a really important question. It is at the heart of the work that we do. So besides founding Austin and Nest, I'm building a new startup called Founding Up, and it really addresses this. One of the things that, as a I'm going to put my financial hat on for a minute, a financial advisor. What a financial advisor does really looks into the future, right? Whether it's retirement or whatever goals you want to do, a financial advisor really looks at the future. And the job of an advisor is to figure out what the red flags are, what things you may not be thinking about. And so when a good financial advisor has he's seen many families come through the office and have faced different issues, and that advisor is taking those issues and kind of recording them. And then when a new family comes in, he's able to like take that information of that new family and the goals that the new family has, and then say, well, think about these things, begin with the end in mind before you do those things. So that's what the job of an advisor does. So I'm putting that hat on for a second because it applies to this question. In the landscape of education and employment constantly changing, that's a true statement. What steps can I take to solidify this career? I would say just one, a couple of things, is begin with the end in mind. A lot of times people don't think far enough ahead or don't put a whole lot of thought into what the future is going to look like, and they just kind of like pick something right now and it'll all work out down the road. And really, it's really just spend some time thinking about what the future could look like. What is, like, right now, AI is the new hottest thing. Back when 20 years ago, it was the internet was the hottest thing, and how that would change the world. So I'd say spend some time thinking about how the internet changed the world, and then really spend some time thinking about what's this thing today that is going to be changing the world, and what will the world look like, and use your imagination to figure out what kind of jobs. It's not the jobs that you're looking at today, it's what does the future of jobs look like. I don't know if either of you guys hunt, but
I don't.
in there's a saying, and I'm in Texas, and I do hunt, but I'm not a big hunter. But whenever you go hunt or any type of animal, especially a flying animal like a dove or whatever, you don't shoot where the bird's at, you shoot where the bird's going, right? Because by the time your animal gets there, you're able to that's the only way you'll hit the bird.
Yeah.
The same thing with job market, right? You don't necessarily think I'm going to go do this today because that job may not be here tomorrow. But you have to think with innovation, what might the future look like, and how can I best prepare for that? So I'd say the first thing about job is learn. The one thing that you can do that AI can't do is think. AI is really great at processing information. I'm a firm believer that we have been. You guys have heard we've been in the information world, right? Well, I'd say that we're moving to an innovation world, right? We've got information coming out of our ears. The internet made that happen. We can access anything online at any point. So information is there. And what AI is going to allow us to do is consume that information faster, process it for us. All the things that we were doing before, AI is going to be able to do. But what AI can't do at the moment is innovate. What new things can come up? What can be created? So in a grand way, the future of society is going to look more entrepreneurial. So if you begin with the end in mind, saying, "Oh, what can I create?" and not be afraid and not live in a box, but give yourself permission to say, "I can do anything, I can be anything. Well, what can I create going forward?" So hopefully that answer this question is really there's not. I would say there's not a solid career. So let's just first think about that, right? Think about, and I like to think about life as a movie. If you watch the same movie over and over and over, you'd be bored if you knew what the next step was. Life is not really about, life is like a good movie because it's got these twists and turns, and us as humans, we're really resilient to change and adaptation. So fall in love, I would say the best advice here is fall in love with change, fall in love with constant change, because that is life. Life is just growth. You think about a tree that just does this and keeps growing and growing roots as well. We are the same thing. And so I'd say fall in love with change and fall in love and be on, not only fall in love with change, but be on the lookout for change. Where is technology going? Where is the world going? Where is society going? The one answer to this question, I'll boil it down to this. Instead of what steps can I take to simplify my career path, I'd say, what do I need to, who do I need to become? And that question would be, I always think of, how can I provide the most value to those around me? If you can answer that question about the future, about anything, how can I become the most value? Because what society is really your contribution to society, and others are paying you, whether it's employers or customers, they're paying you because you're solving a problem for them. So with this question, I would simply answer, always be thinking, how can I be most valuable to my community? And always be willing to make some changes and know that everything's changing, and I've got to be, Bruce Lee said, be like water, right?
Yeah.
He's fluid, right? Be that way and know that life isn't solid, but you'll be fine. You'll be okay.
Yeah, I really like that analogy where you said, "Don't shoot the bird, shoot where the bird is going," because you always got to think about the future. I like that one. Yeah. Okay. We're gonna move on to the next question. Okay, I'll take this one. Given the high price of college in the recent years, how much value does a college degree have versus trying entrepreneurship or just training straight up for a job? And how feasible is starting a business as an alternative to a traditional 9 to 5?
So this is another great question. It's something that the reason why we're building another company is because this generation now, Gen Z, is really kind of questioning the value of university. And it's really become a math problem over time, as I mentioned earlier in my introduction. When something grows by 8% and the rest of society grows by 3%, you'll never catch up. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you've got a budget and one of your line items keeps going up by 8%, but your paycheck only stays at 3%, and you get behind, at some point it's going to break, right? And that's what we're seeing right now with costs of university. When universities are costing 6 figures, the challenge for universities right now is that you go into university thinking you're going to get a job at the end, but really what university does is kind of helps you learn to think. It doesn't give you a job at the end. You get a degree, and then you got to go figure out, what am I going to do with this degree? But it's not like I'm going to an employer with this degree and say, okay, you owe me one job. It's just not the way it works, unfortunately. And so when you have a price that does this and the degree is not equal to that job, then you do have this question about having value. I'm not going to say a college degree is not valuable, because it is. But if you know what you're doing. Now, and when I say if you know what you're doing, if you have a really good idea of what you're going to do, college degree, like you wouldn't want a medical doctor not to have a degree. You wouldn't want an accountant not to have a degree. You wouldn't want certain professions not to have a degree, because there's a lot of memorization and a lot of things that are taught in a degree. However, if you're simply looking at price, then it kind of it goes back to, what is it that I want to become? If I'm entrepreneurial at heart, then yeah, a degree may not be the best sense, make the best choice at the beginning. You'll often see, like, even getting a master's, which a lot of entrepreneurs will do over time. You don't get that right out of, you need some real world experience before you go back and get a master's and kind of apply that, because there's some knowledge that you can apply over time. So But training for the job, I think that because the expense of university has gotten pretty high, I think as a society we have got this pressure that says we got to shove our kids right into school right after high school. They got to make this decision, and that decision has gotten really, really big. I think it's okay for society to say, it's okay for my kid to take a leap year or two and try to figure things out. It's okay for them to go work for another company as an intern or an entrepreneur, entry position, and just kind of feel if they like that before we go drop $100,000 into this. So I think that as a society, we have to learn, and I think it's going there. Whereas as a society, we stop putting so much peer pressure on the timing of university. I think university and degree has its place in a lot of areas, but I also think that the timing pressure can be relaxed a little bit. I often talk about, in entrepreneurship, as an entrepreneur, most entrepreneurs build what's called an MVP, minimum viable product. And the reason that you do that is because you don't want to go spend all your money into this product until it's been tested, until you have product market fit, until people are going to buy it. Then you start developing it. When we had the Apple phone, right, it didn't start like the Apple phone, right? It started many, many, many years ago as a computer that had its phases. And then when Steve Jobs came back, he started with what? A music player. Nothing to do with computers, right? And that was a minimum viable product. And he got users, and he started growing that, and that became iterations of products until you've got the biggest company in the world now, and now it is computers and all kinds of things. I believe that when you pick a career or work for, go train with a job, you should ask employers, what's your minimum education requirement, right? Because I just want to get my foot in the door. I'm not even sure I'm going to like working for you. So what is the minimum I can go in and work for you and see if I like it? Apple has come back and said, you don't need a 4-year degree. You need an 18-month coding certificate to come work for us. So anyone that comes out of high school can go and figure out 18 months of coding, spend whatever that is, not a whole lot of money to do that. And in 18 months, you can go have a decent paying job at Apple to see if that's what you like. And without spending so much money and then having buyer's remorse because that's not what you wanted to do. So I think it's important to answer this question in a way that I think it's going to be an individual answer based on what you want to become. As I mentioned, if you know you want to be a CPA, go get the degree. If you know you want to be a doctor, go get the degree. If you don't know what you want, take your time and go talk to employers, figure out what their minimum education requirements, go down that path. I think that's a good, reasonable way to approach things. Just don't rush into things. And how feasible is it starting a business in terms of traditional job? At the end of the day, that gets done all the time. People come. You hear stories where people have come from other countries and they come in and they start a cab company or they start some sort of restaurant and they just work hard and make it happen. I think the root of this question is not what's easier. It's actually run to what's more. Actually, it's not about a dollar amount. It's really about what makes sense to you, what your passions are, and what you think. You want to spend time doing. All of this question has to do with education. Whether you're starting a business or whether you're going to pay an institution for education, it's all education. When you start a business, you're going to spend money to start that business, and in that process, you will be educated, right? The thing is, you may not have a degree at the end, which is fine. But you will have knowledge and real world experience. So I think if it's in your heart to try to start a business, know that you have those other. It's not an either or question. It's like I can go down this route. I can give it. I can create a business plan. I can give it a good 3 to 5 years because it doesn't happen overnight. And if I have all the signals and I've got mentorship and I've got all the things that's going right, if it looks like it's growing, continue down the path. If it looks like I need some retraining, then shift gears.
That was really insightful. Thank you. So we're going to move on to question number 3.
So we wanted to ask you, with there's that debate being like, is community college a better route or is a 4-year college better? We wanted to ask you, is 4 years of community college a viable alternative to a 4-year college? And how much does the prestige of your university really matter, especially like when you're just starting the workforce and like just getting into jobs?
Okay, I'm going to answer this question with it depends, and I want you to think differently, right? Right? If you're hungry, and there's an In-N-Out burger next to you, right? You guys know In-N-Out, right? You come from California, and it's in the neighborhood. That's going to satisfy your hunger, right?
Mhm.
But it's not going to compare to a fancy steakhouse. That I don't know what's the fancy steakhouse you guys have, but the food is not going to compare, right? However, it is going to accomplish the goal of feeding you, right? It is going to accomplish so there are differences between both of them. However, if your goal is just to eat and to sustain yourself, the one thing the In-N-Out's going to make that happen. Now, if your goal is to create an experience, to treat others, to bring friends over, and you want to take treatment to a steakhouse, then you would want to do the other experience, right? So understand that's it really depends on the goal. When it comes to 4-year community college, if you're just like, hey, I want to get enough experience to go build my own company, or I want to get enough experience to become a nurse, or I want to get enough experience to do X, Y, and Z, there is nothing wrong with a community college because it will get you the sustenance you need to get started, right? And all you're looking for is that start. It does not compare to a Harvard degree. Obviously, what Harvard brings to the table is going to be network, because now you're in a exclusive group of people, and normally in your college, you build networks. Life is all about networks. Have you ever heard the saying, "It's not what you know, it's who you know"?
Yeah.
Right? It is because it's networks. The reason that that's important is because you can spend a lot. It's all about time. You can spend a lot of time. I can spend a lot of time looking for a web designer because I don't know any, right? And so I can spend hours, days. I can interview. I can spend a lot of money. I can throw money down the drain. However, if in my network I know people that I trust and they already have a web designer, I can make a phone call and that decision is done in 30 seconds, right? It's about the speed of how you get things done. And so in a prestigious university, most often you don't go there because of the education is that much better. You go there and you spend the money, your parents spend the money because there's a network of people that have gone there, and there is a network of people that are there that you can build things with. So there is a different kind of value to doing that, although it comes with a hefty price tag. Just like going to a steakhouse is going to cost you a few $100s versus $20 at In-N-Out to make sure that ends up you get fed, right? So hopefully that makes a difference. If you're just trying, if you're in a position to where it's not getting a prestigious university is not getting paid for you, you're not getting a grant to getting one, you're having to go get loans for all this, you might rethink, that path and say maybe I go this other way to get. Because the second part of this question, especially in the early starts of one's career, that's why I'm like it really kind of depends on the financial situation. If you got a full boat one way or another, either through a scholarship or your parents paying for it, and it makes sense. Those people typically go through that experience, build their network, come out on the other side with a offer to a good job, and so your early start takes off much faster in that process. The other 4 years is like I don't have that paid for the community college. I'm going to go have to learn the skill and tool, and I'm going to go do that. So it still feeds you. It's just the network's not as prestigious, and so you still get it done. It's just not as prestigious.
Okay, so for question number 4, as a financial expert, what fundamental financial principles do you think every young adult should know, and how can I start applying these principles to set up myself for financial success?
It's unfortunate that schools don't do a better job of, as far as the people that I've asked a bunch of young adults, what has been taught at school regarding finance. Finance is a kind of this, there's, I guess the word I'm looking for is, it's been a funny word because there are certain things that people haven't talked about in the past, generation after generation. We don't talk about money. We don't talk about politics. Like there's this thing that is just like this, culture thing, right? But it's done more of a disservice than service, and I think it does need to be talked about. So your financial principles, you got to learn, everything you can learn about finance. I mean, that should be one of the, building it, buying it, building the checking account, savings account, emergency funds. How do I, when I'm earning money, how do I, spend it? Because if you don't know how to spend it, you'll spend the whole thing, right? And so learning what should go into savings, what should go into emergency fund, what should go into, like if you learn to live on a much smaller amount, you can save for things that matter over time, rainy day. But most important, you're saving for investment. And when I say investment, it's not stocks and bonds that you buy on the street, even though that can be an investment. I would think that in your mindset, you really want to be saving for that, for your own business. You want to be saving for investing as an angel investor to other small businesses that you know are going to do well or you feel do well. Let's just put it this way: the more you learn to save early on, and the more you learn about how business works, how startups work, how angel investing works, how how investing works, the more you will not be working for a dollar, the more it'll be working for you. The more it'll be working for you. Wow. So I'd say, learning all of that is important. Learning how that works. I think anytime you can pick up a book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, anytime you can pick up a book that applies to the fundamentals of finance, you'll be better served by it. Most people don't think about that until years down the road, and then they've already gotten the credit card debt. They've already done certain things that they're like, shit, if I'd have known earlier, I would have done that. You get that all the time. So as much as you can dive your head into finance books early, it's pretty important.
So building good habits early. Yeah.
100%.
So we also wanted to ask you, what's the process to creating a successful business, and how do you come up with an idea that you believe in?
There's no one answer for this, but there is some principles you can start with. One, there's always something inside us that makes us lean towards one thing or another. Every one of us, if you think about the physics of who we are, we are literally matter from stars, from another star somewhere. So you can actually say that we're stardust, right? And there's a stardust inside every one of us that makes us unique and special. Not one human is the same as another human on this earth. And we have the privileges of different upbringings, different just environments, different parenting, all of that kind of stuff. And in that, there's often something within you that has a calling. And it's hard to find often early, but over time, you'll find what this calling is. And so when you come up with an idea and you have a calling, it'll have a resonance. You know how music has you can take a note and play a note and you can feel this, it resonates at a certain at a certain moment, you're like, ooh, that's nicely tuned. That's how it'll feel whenever you start feeling what your calling is, and there's opportunities that show up, and you're like, ooh, that resonates. So that's what that works. So look for something that resonates. But while you're trying to figure that out, when you find something that resonates, whether it happens now, in 10 years, 20 years, whatever it is, you'll know it, right? But before that, you may not know it. And you might have to try a whole bunch of different things before you have it. In that circumstance, always be thinking again about the future and a bit about creating the value. So there are problems all over this world that are not solved. And so look for those problems and look for a problem that hasn't been solved and look for ways that it can be solved. And then determine, go down this path of this mental exercise. Like, is this a problem that can be solved? Is this a problem that should be solved? Is there a market that's going to pay for it? And what's the solution look like? What does my solution look like? But it starts with the very beginning question, which is, what value can I bring? What expertise can I bring to the table to solve this thing, right? And it could be little problems at first. It could be something as simple as, I want to help people with finances. I want to help people with there's, in my neighborhood, there's no burger shop. I want to put a burger shop in. I mean, it could be simple as that, but that's a start. Over time, the problem you solve gets bigger and bigger once you get more and more experience. So don't try and change the world off the bat. Now, you can, but also it doesn't have to be this world big problem. It's like, how can I impact my community? How can I serve my community? And will they pay me to make it happen? So that's how I would answer that second question. Is that's how you ideate, really let it come to you. Don't try to force it. But also, if you are going to go down this entrepreneurial spirit, just figure out how you can be a best help, and will someone pay you for it, right?
Right.
Don't try to do stuff for free. Just like, is someone willing to pay me? And if the answer is then yes, then maybe it's worth writing it down, thinking about it. Also, don't jump into every idea. I would write my ideas down, have an ongoing pad of ideas. I've always had this. I've got books and books of ideas that I've always written down. Say, this works. And then if it continues to eat at you and continues to show up, then it might be worth pursuing. But you got to let it ruminate, and let it just kind of work there. Now, what's the process of creating a successful business? Man, one, you got to have heart. You got to have heart. You got to have drive, determination, like nothing else. So you've got to be willing to put in the hours of whatever. Like, creating a business is very much like creating a family. It's very much like building something that will have a life of its own, and it will demand on you. You can't just turn it off like when you go work for someone else. And you're like, at 5 o'clock or whatever, my time is up, I'm out. When you have a business, you have clients, customers, market needs that will demand your time. And so understanding that it is this endeavor. It's a challenge. It's wonderful, but at the same time, not kidding yourself, it's a lot of work. And then starting all the research and talking to others that have done something similar. So building a successful business is not about having an idea and then jumping on it tomorrow. It's really about really thinking about the idea, thinking about the problem, thinking about all the ways that it could work and all the ways it could not work, and then going out there and talking to a bunch of people that it could impact or others that have done something similar. And that's good research, and you're learning along the way. Before you pull the trigger on anything, spending a good 6 months or so of just immersing yourself in this business to see if it's viable. That's the best way to kind of at least prepare this path. So when you build a house, you don't just say, oh, it's a nice piece of property, I'm going to just start building the walls, right? you first have to survey the land, and you have to then put a foundation down. You got to make sure plumbing and wiring. There's a whole. You got to before you even do that. You got to draft up the architecture designs of the house. Right. There's all this planning that happens before anything is done to the land. And the same thing happens with building a business. It's a wonderful journey, but know that it's not overnight. It takes time to be thorough and do it right.
Let's go to question 7. So, based on your entrepreneurial experience, what advice do you have for someone struggling to be motivated and feeling weighed down by their work?
I would say change if you can. If it's within your means to change. If you don't like what you're doing, then change. Because the one thing that society teaches you is do this thing, be in this box. And you asked me earlier about what's real world. The real world doesn't make you stay in a box. You go do what you need to do. And you get, part of a mentor that helps the mentee is understanding that think outside the box. Don't stay in something that's like there's people that do this all the time. They'll go get a degree, get a job, and they stay in that job for 40 years that they hate. No one forced them to do that. So I'd say if you're not feeling motivated, feeling way down, let that inform you. Why am I not motivated? Am I way down? What do I not like about this? Right? If you have, you could be talking about school, so you may not be able to change, but if you have the ability to change something, change something else, do something else. If you don't have the ability to change, learn from it. Say, okay, what is it I don't like? Why am I not? Really do some journaling about why you're not getting motivated, because this is informing you that when you get done with this class, move on to something else, or when you go out to work, don't get a job because it pays you that has you doing this stuff, because you'll be bored and weighed down, right? And that's not living.
Okay, yeah. So it's just about doing what you love, right? Yeah, I think that's a great answer.
Making sure that you don't have to do what you love, but making sure that it doesn't suck, right? So sometimes people have to do something that they don't love, because you could have a hobby that you love, right? That doesn't make you any money, but you still love it. So there are places in life that allow you to do some things that you love. Do something that you get excited about being part of, right? So that I would say that.
Okay, so something that motivates you and something that doesn't really stop you from working on it because you don't like it.
Right.
Right, yeah. Yeah, so we also just wanted to know a little bit more about what founding Austin was and what the story behind it was.
Yeah, so talk about it at the very beginning. Essentially, it's an online magazine now. It was an actual physical magazine. I started in 2016, but the idea behind this is how can I bring the stories of Austin together in a single place so that others can know what their neighbors are doing, right? And so I want to know how this coffee shop got started. I got to interview people like Tito, who, you guys are familiar with the brand Tito. He actually lived in Austin, started the brand here. So we went and talked to him and said, how did you get started? Because people want to know, we're all the same. Every person's the same. We all have different choices and we go forward. It's our job as mentors to give you permission to say, hey, look, no matter what box you think you're in, you're not. You can go do against what everyone is saying. You can go do whatever you want. And that was Tito's story. So I hear stories of different entrepreneurs out of Austin to tell their story and how they navigated their path to get where they are now. That's what Founding Austin is about. And my story really had to do with a passion of seeing this void, as I mentioned earlier, this gap between what parents were experts at and what their kids wanted to do. There's a gap there that wasn't being told. So, in essence, Founding Austin was this mentorship piece from the city that gets us to tell their stories and people can listen to. So we started do that. We did some podcasts and some other things. So it's been a wonderful journey.
That's great. those are the questions we have for today that we planned. But if you still have a little bit of time, I'd like to ask you just a quick question that I came up with while just listening to everything you've said today.
Okay.
So I just want to know. So right now I'm a junior in high school, and the world is changing so fast, and I want to go into computer science. Right, programming is something that I'm interested in, but with AI and everything, I don't know if just raw coding would be a job market that would exist in the future. And you talked about how you are venturing in AI a little bit. So I just wanted to know how does computer science look? How does the field look in the future?
So a lot of jobs are questioned in the future. However, I would say I would one really kind of before if I was in your shoes, I would say what is it about computer science that I like?
I think
Right.
it's about like solving problems and just making things that kind of interests me.
So if that's I would say what is it that's driving, and then I would also say if you think of computer science not as this finite place you're going to, but almost as the beginning place, right? By learning how to code, by learning how coding works, look, we're at the beginning of AI. And yes, while it's getting smarter and learning to code and do different things, again, we're moving from an information age to an innovation age. You're going to need architects to architect the code, like what can be done. Many people are going, so coding is this, I would say, much needed thing still because many businesses are going to need AI and they don't know how to install AI. You still need an architect to figure out how to build an AI tool to serve that business, right?
Right.
And so, yes, it may be less coding, but it still is doing that. So I'll put it this way. Do mathematicians still exist?
Yeah.
Why? If there's calculators.
To find new mathematical formulas and whatnot.
Right, because math, there's still problems that need to happen. And so you use the tool, a calculator, to help you figure this out, but you're still solving bigger problems. So I think in the world, if I was in your shoes in the world, and I'm making this debate, if I still like solving problems, don't let AI stop you. Know that AI is going to be a tool to help you and enhance you. As you get through the basics of the code and everything else, you're going to learn how everything works, and then dive into how AI works. Dive into how those opportunities, and how can you take what you know about how AI works, and how can you apply it to future problems.
Yeah, thank you. That clears it up a lot because, I mean, over the past couple months, because ChatGPT and all that stuff, this could have been a bit like anxious about how the future of computer science is going to look. But I feel like, I mean, your answer put it perfectly, and there's still going to be opportunities everywhere. It's just new opportunities. So.
Yeah, don't jump off the boat until it's all sunk, right? You got to figure it out. Is it going to sink? Is it not going to sink? What's going on? You have to see it, and it'll be years before it's a new thing, and you hear because you're attuned to it, but it's got to make its way through society, and all along the way there'll be people but think architect, think like I'm going to be using to build things, and so think of that, and it's a much needed space right now. But you're gonna pause as an engineer for a while, computer science engineer, but then you'll move on to the next thing, move on to the next thing, move on to the next thing.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, ultimately, where you start doesn't really mean anything about where you end, right? So
it's all a journey. Sure is.
Okay, thank you. Anirudh or Megan, do you guys have any questions that you'd like to ask?
No, I just wanted to say, Mr. Dillard, I really enjoyed the presentation. I felt like I learned a lot, and I feel like I felt like I can now. I understand like how to approach like how I go about things now. So I really appreciate it. Like the I really like the presentation and the answers that you gave. I found them very insightful.
Cool. Glad. That's you, Megan. She may not be in. All right. Well, I will send an invitation to you, or I will ask, just not send you anything, but if either of you, I was explaining earlier how we are building a podcast called Uncharted, Your Sidekick for Life, and it's all about mentorship, and it's all about figuring out, what keeps you up at night, what problems keep you up at night, and then we bring mentors in to kind of help with that. If either of you guys want to be part of that, just send me an email. You guys have my email.
Yeah.
Let me know, and I'll make an introduction to our podcast host, and she'll interview you guys and ask you, just like you interviewed me. She'll ask you like what keeps you up at night and all that kind of stuff. And then besides me, we'll get other experts to come in and put on the podcast to answer those questions. In addition to that, if you guys are interested in keeping up with what I'm doing, this is a good way because we're also building tools, AI tools, know that to help mentorship. And I'm going to need a team of people like you guys to test the product, to be the first to use it, and to give me feedback of like, do you like it, not like it? Because we want to make sure we're taking input from the audience of what it's going to look like. So shoot me your information if you want to be part of it.
Yeah, we'd love to. I think
we'd love to. Yeah,
it's a great opportunity. Right. Thank you so
Yes.
much. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Yeah. You guys have a wonderful evening. Take care.
Yeah.